Wednesday. It's a Mercury day. So Mercury, Uranus is retrograde.
Act right.
Act, act right, get it together. Okay, we're back. We've got it together, you guys. So welcome and truly, truly thank you for sticking with as we jump along a little bit here. But I do hope we give you something that's worth your time. And man, we've been getting pumped about this for a couple weeks to have Clarissa over. We've been going back and forth in some emails and stuff getting ready for this, and it's neat when you get to have somebody over that you just genuinely love the vibe. You're like, can we just vibe? We don't even need to talk. We'll just have some water and vibe, you know. It's a good feeling. So welcome, Clarissa. Thank you so much for coming over.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so stoked.
You see what I mean? It's already good. So, okay, we have had David and Linda over to talk about vibrational astrology. But, as far as I'm concerned, like you're a part of that big three. I was like, Clarissa Dolphin's coming over. I got them all from vibrational astrology. So, I mean, how did you get there? How'd you get into vibrational astrology?
Well, like many of us astrologers, I was a self-taught astrologer for like 20 years of my life. And, some astrologers have like histories where they're like, oh, I thought astrology was crap, like a load of BS. And I never did. Like I was fortunate to have a mom who's totally into spiritual stuff and who had like all of Linda Goodman's books, sun signs, relationship signs. So like literally from the time I was 5, I was reading those books, and any kind of books on astrology I could get my hands on, and doing all the free stuff online. And you just interviewed Susan Miller. I've been reading her for like 20 years. But really my pathway into vibrational astrology specifically started in 2015. Because for some reason um it started to dawn on me that some of the psychological and archetypal ways to approach readings, they just weren't right for me anymore. It's kind of like, okay, like I'm like growing out of this. Like astrology has to be more than psychology. So it led me to, going down the garden path of Google and just being like, okay, like what the heck, discovering other branches of astrology. And I came across David Cochran's apprenticeship program, and, I signed up for it on a whim. And now, I'm never turning back because it just makes so much sense, and it's so accurate and so rad and exciting.
That is so amazing because, I mean, I think whether it's vibrational or horary or mundane or financial or humanistic, wherever you find your spot, your insides will kind of tell you, hey, we got to adjust and get on our course. But then it's like when you click in, when you're in the key rect position, that key slides in there and it's like, then it just opens, right?
Yes.
Yes, the key rect position is what we're going for, friends. So today we're going to talk about the quincunx, and we've studied and talked about the quincunx around here. But one thing we learned with David and with Linda is that sometimes in vibrational astrology, we have to unthink our thinking and then like reapply a concept. So that's what you're going to take us through today, and I'm pumped. I feel like let me just get my water and learn over here.
Awesome.
Yep. So I'm going to let you've got some screen share privileges over there. The chat is lit up. They're saying hello to you. So
Hello, guys. Thank you for being here.
and research based. That is exactly right. Evidence based. So I know you've got all that covered in your slideshow.
I do actually. So let me just like pull these dang things up. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes, we got you. Oh, yay. Here it comes.
Yay. Okay, so perfect. The Quincunx in vibrational astrology. Um, all right, so today we're going to go over the meanings of these things and, the quincunx and, in vibrational astrology, but it translates to any astrology you do. So it's actually perfect. So let's get into it. So as Stormy mentioned, uh, the definitions for the Quincunx was specifically based on a research project that I conducted last year. I led the project, and it's what we do for every single meaning in vibrational astrology is we conduct a research project to figure out what the heck anything means. So how we do it is we go into Sirius astrology software and we type in a simple formula and we review tens of thousands of charts with AA data, so the most correct data that you can possibly get. Now, so this could be like totally boring. Like, I hope you're not dying in your chair ready to fall asleep right now. The reason why why I'm bringing this up to you is because in VA, although there is a subjective process to, look up biographies and figure out what this stuff means, it's not subjective in the fact that none of the data or the subjects that we're studying are cherry picked. So we have no idea who these people are. There are tens of thousands of them in the database, and the top ones with the strongest stuff we're researching come up, and then we research them. So that's how we developed the Quincunx. And so we did, that's the first part of it. The second part is really group brainstorming and presenting the findings to other astrologers. So Stormy mentioned the triad between me, David Cochran, and Linda Berry. We work twice a week, several hours a week. We're total psycho nerd researchers. So we bounce things off of each other, and the research and the findings come alive in the community, and they get validated too, because other people's genius gets added to the raw data, and then it's like boop boop boop, like blowing up with awesomeness. So, and this was actually, the Quincunx was really critical to have the triad just because of the funky nature of it. So let's talk about it. What is a Quincunx? Here is its glyph. A Quincunx simply is an 150-degree angle in a natal chart. And not a natal chart, in any chart, because vibrational astrology is, of course, it's based on harmonics. So anyway, it's a 150-degree angle in whatever chart you're looking at. And, I wonder, what have you guys heard about the Quincunx? I would guess that many of you have heard it related directly to health issues, medical stuff like that. I want to clarify that in vibrational astrology, in the research, health and medical issues have nothing to do with the Quincunx, according to the data. So it's not actually related, according to, our experiments, if you will. So
that's interesting to know that, though, right? Because it is a little bit more of this unlearning, and like, does that actually fit in the vibrational story that we're about to hear, right? And I love the Quincunx glyph because I always teach my students, it's like the picnic table. These sides in traditional astrology, they can't exactly understand what they're doing, so they're gonna sit down. They're like, have a seat at the table. So right?
Oh, I love that. And I love that metaphor because it makes so much sense for what it is. And in VA, so what it is in VA, dun, 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 it is a pressure point stimulating growth and change. So really, it is an aspect of maturity, and it has all of the funkiness attached to growth and change. So let's imagine this by stepping into this kid's shoes or any kid's shoes. When we're talking about firsts as children, like, no big deal now. We've all been to the barber. We all got our hair cut, right? Imagine the first time you're sitting in the chair. You have literally no idea what's going on. There are these big shears. They look like they can saw off your face. but your mom is thrusting you into the chair because you got to get a haircut because your hair is all unruly, right? So there's so many nerves. There's so much, trepidation and anxiety. You're building up to it. Oh my God, what's the barbershop bluff? Are they going to cut off my face? Right? And so the quincunx is like your mom in a way, in terms of throwing you in vulnerable positions where you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. You have no reference for it, but you're forced to deal with it. So, okay, he's shook in his chair now, but 30 years from now, he's king barber. He's teaching his own son how to, shave and do his own hair. So he has mastered what was once a huge source of fear and anxiety for him. And so that's what the quincunx in VA, how it operates. So let's talk about some more characteristics. Number one characteristic, vulnerability. Obviously, with any type of change, it's more dramatically terrible because you have no idea what you're doing. So particularly with the quincunx, whatever planets are aspected in this aspect, the person doesn't know what the heck is going on. They don't know how to do it, but they're forced to do it. It has a sense of naivete and it wants to be fully developed, but it's not. So a second characteristic for the quincunx is challenge and controversy. And so the quincunx, and you'll see in their presentation and the people that we're talking about this very clearly, it just doesn't fit in. It's awkward. So it is like that childlike kind of growth maturation process where, you're weird. You've never been to class before, and then, you get
weird.
Yeah, like totally weird. Like what the heck is going on? So, okay, because it challenges and opposes the status quo that you were brought, what's comfortable for you. So the quincunx is never comfortable, even as you develop strength from it. And even as you develop more wisdom and knowledge after being thrust into these situations. So, why? Because the quincunx itself is seeking something more valuable than what's already present in its life. That's what growth and maturation is. It's about evolution, So the fact that the quincunx, doesn't stagnate, it is this like eternal itch that keeps on itching that you can never fully scratch. So this is, this quincunx stuff is a huge breakthrough. Very quickly on a nerdy level for us nerdy astrologers out there, because this is particularly in vibrational astrology an entirely new paradigm for how aspects operate in a chart, period. Hard aspects like squares and oppositions, all they are action in VA. It's just what a person does. It's not complicated. The soft aspects like trines and stuff, it's just how somebody wants to flow and just how basic, flowy expression. So then we hit the quincunx and we're now like, oh, we can tell the client specifically, this is where the universe has ordained you to grow, evolve, and change. This is your soft spot. This is your weak point. This is how, this is what to focus on for the rest of your life to develop. The other stuff is easy. It's not as earned. Okay, so let's get into the meanings of the quincunx in vibrations. But before we do that, I actually want to show you guys how to pull up vibrations so that as we're moving along in the presentation, you can spot a quincunx in any of these vibrations in your own chart and, see if these meanings vibe with you. Sound good?
Yep, I'm in. They're in. Everybody's buckled in over here.
Okay, awesome. So let's go to astro.com. Which I'm sure I used to use this all the time before, I bought professional software.
Now, which
So
software do you use?
I use Sirius Astrology software, and I'll show you guys how to pull. You do too? Yeah, it's the bomb.
Yeah.
So I'll show you guys to pull them up in how to pull them up in both. It's really easy, so it won't take up too much of our time here. So if we were to go to chart drawing, ascendant, or excuse me, let's go to extended chart selection. So what we're going to look for here, you're going to be able to put in your birth data up here, and then we're going to go to chart type and scroll all the way down. And then click this thing, harmonic chart, please enter harmonic number and day field. So we click that thing. The day field is here. So we can only pull up harmonics one at a time. So let's just do the 5th harmonic for now. Click here to show chart. And then you have the 5th harmonic chart. Now, unlike Sirius software, they don't have, Astro.com doesn't have, insignia in the chart itself. So try to find the quincunx down here in the boxes, and then you can see what planets are aspecting with it. Okay, so that's how you pull up a harmonic chart on astro.com. And in Sirius Astrology software, you just pull up a natal chart, whichever one you want, yours probably. And then
yours.
right? And then we're going to go to harmonic chart. And then for the purposes of our presentation, we're going to look at what I call the base 6 harmonics, which are the basics that every vibrational astrologer needs to know to study the entire system. So that's going to be 5, 7, 9, 11, 8, 9. I knew I was missing a number there. And 13. Boom. Press OK. And voila, you got harmonic charts. And cool. So in this one, here is a yod right here. And in Sirius, the quincunxes are brown. So you can just spot them like that. So boom, there we go. Let's get back to the presentation. And talk about the meanings of the quincunx in VA in the vibrations themselves. So let's talk a little bit about what vibrations are. Vibrations are, they're harmonics. They are aspects of a natal chart. But for the purposes of our presentation, since we're not learning VA right now, let's just think of them as energy rooms. That's the best way to think about them. Just energy rooms where you step into the room and they emit specific types of energies and you have to act a certain way in them. So a lot of people like to compare them with houses. And so for the first purpose of this presentation, that might be an easy way to think about them, but they're totally different from houses. They're way more super conscious, but don't worry about that. So the 7th harmonic, the quincunx in the 7th harmonic means switching serious life paths. Mm. So in essence, what it does is it really, really gets serious about a specific occupation, a specific hardcore thing, because we're in the 7th harmonic and the energy in the room of the 7 is super serious. It's super disciplined. So we have, in the quincunx here, it will do something super serious and then have a hobby. And then, but the hobby typically takes over the initial occupation and becomes the thing that the person does on a serious basis. So it has like this fear of, a part of the funkiness of the quincunx and how it expresses in the 7 is a fear of misdirected devotion. It's like, okay, am I really doing the right thing? is this real? So it's constantly, and this is so unlike the seventh harmonic, which is so focused. The quincunx makes you focus on multiple important things in the seven. So let's talk about these people really quickly. These are the top subjects in with the quincunx in the seventh harmonic, and we're gonna really get into the first guy, Frederic Basile, and Jacques Charrier, the first two. But the last three, Morty Cobb, he was a soldier in the army who became a professional jazz bassist. And right, really. And
Right.
so, you know, he signed up to the army. You get your butt kicked in boot camp. 7, discipline, right? Like it's hardcore. And, you know, he played in high school bands before he became a soldier. And so his high school hobby became his full-time occupation. He left the army to be a musician. And so okay, so let's just get into, I don't know if we're going to have time to do all the top 5. So let's go into the actual people then, the top super people. So Frederic Basile, he trained as a medical doctor back in the day. This is like 1850s France. And then he became an impressionist painter. But he died on the battlefield as a soldier. So he did, and if you were thinking about medical training and stuff like that, you know, even back in the day, they still had boards, they still had exams. They, you know, you don't play, right? And then he becomes a friggin' painter, you know, and then he dies as a soldier. That's crazy. So here's his needle. Let's look at all the quincunx action in his seventh harmonic. The quincunx are these blue lines here. And what's so fascinating about this guy is we see the quincunx 1000% connected to art, Venus, Neptune, Moon, Venus, Neptune. Yes.
Yes.
And so we see that. And then we also see his intellectual prowess and his hardcore studies with Mercury Mars here, which Mercury Mars is all about class, being a student. And then we also see his hardcore, like, let me drop fools on the battlefield with Mars Pluto. So we can see very clearly all of the occupations that the quincunx made him like flip real quick. So here's
like, record screech.
For real. So here's some of his work. You know, so, you know, he's in anatomy, cutting up cadavers, and then he makes this beautiful painting, these beautiful paintings. And here he is, his self-portrait. So the second guy, Jacques Charrier, he's an actor turned painter. And he was actually Brigitte Bardot, the famous actress's ex-husband. And so what he did was he left acting for a more low-key life as a painter. Like, he hated the public eye. So here's his natal chart, and here's his seventh harmonic. And what's so fascinating about his quincunx patterns here in his seventh harmonic is you notice that these are all outer planets. And there's no like level in terms of inner planets versus outer planets being unequal in VA. They're all equally expressed energies. But what I find with outer planets, if you only have an aspect with outer planets in VA, is that they typically speak to more like high forces, societal forces, and things like that, things outside of the person's control. So this guy, he has a Jupiter Pluto, Uranus Pluto, Saturn Uranus, Jupiter Saturn. And, you know, Jupiter Pluto is a power combination. It's about power, it's about fame, it's about all that kind of stuff in VA. And so he really, and then Saturn Uranus is the most uncomfortable aspect, period, that you can have in vibrational astrology. It is complete destruction and it sucks. So to have all of this in his seventh harmonic quincunx, particularly, we can see why this guy, he's just not feeling the Jupiter Pluto power at all. He's like, oh, hell no. Like, I have to switch paths because this is destroying my life, Saturn Uranus. So the fascinating thing about this is we mentioned earlier that the quincunx is the quincunx really throughout your life, even though you do develop mastery as you move on in step by step. Well, this guy, he really had to fight for his privacy for the remainder of his life because he got into a lot of drama with Brigitte Bardot, his ex. So he sued her for describing him as a vulgar, dictatorial, and uncontrolled macho, a gigolo, and despicable alcoholic.
She got all the words. I need to see her chart. I'm like, oh my God, where'd you get all those words?
I know, right? And Brigitte Bardot, she's like super iconic, in a lot of ways. A lot of us know her name, but she actually turned out to be hella crazy. Like later on. So anyway, so he's fighting with her. He's talking about her only child was his child. So he's really had to deal with this quincunx stuff all of his life. And here's some of his paintings. He won the lawsuit, by the way, which is really interesting. All right, so now we're on to the eighth vibration. And the meaning for the quincunx in the eighth is aggressive transformation. All right. So the eighth harmonic quincunx is so interesting because of all of the quincunxes, this one is the most fierce and aggressive. 1000%. This is the eight. So while the seven is more focused on itself and what am I going to do with my life and things like that, the quincunx is in your face. It's like, boom, it's like almost like being punched in the face by something. There are many instances of mortal danger in the research coming up. There's an urgency and, potential danger here. But the benefit of the quincunx here is trailblazing. It does lead to new paths and it does birth things through its forceful effect. So let's talk about all these people. We're going to get into these one by one. So the Wordle Twins were female Canadian skiing pioneers. They were the first women to really compete for Canada in the Olympics. And so they paved the way for all female skiers, probably in general. And, we got to really think about this because they're out here skiing for the Alpine team in 1948. They were the first women. So they ski jumped off of Mount Royal in the 1930s before, they became Olympians. But we got to, think about the context in which they did all this stuff. I mean, sexism to the max. Women could not ski on mountains, men only. So they're up here like, I'm a fly by, I'm a ski jump all y'all, I'm a dunk on all y'all on this mountain, even though females are totally, fined for being here, aggressive. And, back in the day, people were way more violent. So imagine how many people spat at them, how many people cussed at them for just being women on a slope. That's the kind of quincunx stuff that happens in the eighth harmonic. So let's look at the Wordle Twins chart.
You have a question really quick.
Yes.
Question here is, because they're twins, even in VA, do they have the same chart?
Probably not. They're probably, I'm sure that both twins did not come out of the canal at the same time. So there are probably some difference here. So yeah, that's a very good point. But I could not find them individually in the database.
Okay.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. It's just good to get it out there so we know.
Yes, ma'am. So, okay, so these people, particularly these ladies, you can see the visionary Mars stuff. Mars Neptune is all about going after impossible goals. And that's what they did. They just went off they pursued these impossible goals um in a in an environment that just wasn't hospitable for them, that was mortally dangerous on multiple levels, social levels. Like, they could have been assaulted, and on, just by the act of skiing is super dangerous. So that's really interesting. Now, this is representative of the second person, Janet Graham. Janet Graham died in fiery flames. So let's just like honor her spirit a little bit here, because this is her death site. What happened with this woman is it was the most prosaic thing possible, which is very eighth harmonic. Eighth harmonic is just what's happening. It's very in your face. So somebody picked her up from work. Some dude was driving too fast, hit the car she was in, the car exploded. So what's very interesting about this is the trailblazing element of this was, from this fireball death, hideous death, and it changed the laws in her community. They got really serious about destructive driving. So that was not in vain. This is representative of the third person here, Heinz Guderian, who was a very high-ranking Nazi official who was specifically he was in charge of all the tank movement stuff in Nazi Germany at the time. And if you are a war buff or a history buff at any time or for any reason, you know that, as hideous as the Nazis are, period, end of story, what they did do was they totally changed the game in terms of tank assaults. Hank Guderian was the mastermind behind the tank assaults. So he literally did aggressive transformation. Now, here's our main subject. And, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go too super hard into these people. But this lady, Anahita Bryant, oh my God. She was very, very popular in the 1960s and 70s. She was a singer back in that time, and she was a beloved pop singer. But towards the late 60s and 70s, she became known as an anti-gay advocate, super anti-gay. And, she became an impetus for the LGBTQ early 1970s civil rights movements and Christian fundamentalism. So she was that figurehead. And we'll see why. So she was the woman behind the Save Our Children protests, which was actually successful in that her protest was about overturning a law in Miami that honored that it was an anti-discrimination law, anti-discrimination for LGBTQ, the gay community. She was like,
I love you. Like, I got these letters all out of order, but I mean well.
Girl, I don't know how to talk right now. So, so she got it put back in place successfully. So, okay, so let's look at her chart. So this is her natal, and this is her eighth harmonic. And here her Quincunx is here. What's so fascinating about this woman is that, and the Quincunx specifically, is that it's so blatant and plain. Venus, Uranus, sex. That's what it means in VA. So Venus, Uranus is sex. Saturn Pluto is like a very severe boundary chopping function. No, these are the lines. This is what you can do. You can't go beyond this, blah, 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 blah. Again, we have that Saturn Uranus, that really destructive element that's like, oh, no way. And so we have sex. You can't do this in her Quincunx. So, and here are some of her literatures. Her whole thing behind the Save the Children movement is if kids get exposed to homosexuality at all, those homos are going to turn them gay. That was her whole thing. And how she sparked, the LGBTQ movement specifically is, she was a spokesperson for orange juice. Like, she was like the face of a popular orange juice brand. And so gay clubs stopped serving screwdrivers, and instead they made an Anahita Bryant cocktail that had no orange juice, and they mobilized behind, boycotting the orange juice brand that she was a face of. And so then at the same time, she started she popularized Christian fundamentalism as a against homosexuality, really against the use and expression of a person's sexual self. So that's really interesting. All right, so now we're in the 9th vibration, and the 9th vibration, Quincunx, is all about radical relating. Let's get a little bit more into that. The research subjects for the 9 vibe, they typically are coming from some type of extremely unorthodox family background. And the planets really tell you what kind. So if it's like, extremely unorthodox, hardcore religion, it's probably a Saturn-Neptune situation. So unconventional, dysfunctional, or controversial relationships in general are another impact or expression of the Quincunx in the 9. It just does not relate normally. It just has like some kind of funkiness going on there. So here are the top people here. Lawrence Ferrari is a big time news anchor in France. And she's a big time news anchor, but how this relates to her, we don't have much biographical information on her. But what's interesting about her is she's from an aristocratic family. And, we can think more like, oh, Europe, old school terms, there are probably more aristocrats over there. But if we really think about it, just in the lineage of all the billions of people on Earth, there ain't that many aristocratic families. I don't know that many you know what I mean? So that's just weird. That's already weird. Now, the second guy, Franco Zeffirelli, this man is Mr. 9 vibration Quincunx. So he's a filmmaker, a late Italian filmmaker, who turned into a politician. He was voted to become a senator in Italian parliament. This guy is
how does that bridge that gap?
I know, right? Like, how do you bridge that gap? Well, this guy's gap is so friggin' bridged because it's all his relationships are beyond bizarre from birth. So let me just read you a little bit about him. So he was born on the outskirts of Florence. He was born after an affair between his mom, a fashion designer, and a silk dealer, right? So since both were married at the time, he was unable to use the proper surname from his dad. So his mom had to make up his surname. This is not a family name. And his surname, she just made it up, and it means little breezes. So he's already from birth. He has radical relating patterns. And so then his mom died when he was 6. So then that's another, lots of people's mom died, but he's already coming out the jump with weirdness, and his mom died at 6. So that's crazy. And then he grew up to be an openly homosexual man. And he was born way back in the day. So this is 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, where a lot of people didn't straight up, honestly, did not even know homosexuality existed. So he's openly homosexual, but he's also an extremely conservative politician to the maximum, to the point where he was so against abortion that he proposed imposing the death penalty on women who did seek abortions. And his whole stance for it was if his mother didn't birth him out of wedlock, he wouldn't exist. So then every woman has to birth no matter what. And all his relationships were crazy moving forward throughout his entire life. So let's read a little bit about him. This is his obituary article for when he died from the New York Times. A whirlwind of energy, Mr. Zeffirelli found time not only to direct operas and films and plays past the page of 80, but to carry out an intense social life and pursue a controversial political career. So he had this tumultuous love affair. He knew all these fabulous people. Okay, that's not really out of the ordinary, for like Hollywood types or super famous types necessarily. But then he gets into this whole death penalty thing, and it's so incongruent. Everything about him in terms of his relationships were extreme. And the way that he related to people. And the thing about this, for those of you who do know a little bit about VA, why this is particularly extreme is because the ninth harmonic, as an energy room or whatever, is loving. It's compassionate. It never fights. It just does not do that. It cannot. It's all about passivity and flowing and welcoming and things like that. So the Quincunx takes him far off into another direction. So let's look at his chart. So this is his natal chart. Here are his ninth harmonic Quincunx stuff. So what the thing about his that's really interesting is his radical relating is just obviously defined by his own extreme views. Mercury Pluto in VA is just about blunt force truth. That's it. The sun typically represents the individual, him or herself, in VA. So we're talking about the person's blunt force truth. And then Venus Pluto is super passionate. It cannot, anything that it wants to do, it can never repress it. So he got in a lot of trouble, with everybody. He's openly homosexual, right? But he says, and he's quoted saying, I don't like the word gay. I'm going to use homosexual because it's more glamorous. And so, it's like he's just like he's not flowing with nobody. And he's going to say whatever he wants to say off the top of his head. And that's how he's going to relate to people. And that's how he's going to form relationships with people.
And also, he is happy to do his own thing, but based on his own experience, it looks like go tell people how they can be perfect.
Exactly. And that's not something that the ninth harmonic does. It accepts people as they are. So
this guy, but that's a good last name. I feel like there's I don't know, I feel something good about that. It's a good last name. Go mom.
Yeah, she did a good job. Little breezes, but he ended up being like a hurricane typhoon. So really
win them all.
For real. All right. So 13th harmonic is all about eccentric role playing. Literally. So and this one is so literal. It almost like I almost am about to hyperventilate because it literally talks about the quincunx in the 13th wants to express all different kinds of multiple, extremely flamboyant personalities. These are the weirdest personalities so they mimic, they present different personas and they do impersonations. And so they're not afraid to dive into the inner workings of another being. And in fact, they have to. So they can't just be one person. And that's the difficulty of the quincunx here. And if you have a 13th harmonic quincunx, is that, it's almost like you're already multiple personality disorder or something, So let's talk about these people. Thierry Le we're going to go over him in more detail. We're also going to go over Jules, but the person that I want to talk about real quick is Mitchell Young Evans, because guess what? He was the dude in the dinosaurs. He played Fran. I know Stormy's geeking out because I know we're from the same generation. I was born in 1984. I watched the dinosaurs all the friggin' time. Oh my God, I love this show. Do you like this show, Stormy?
Oh my God, yeah, I was an 82 baby, so I was like, conscious of what was going on in this show. I just had that little bit of development there, and I was like, I love this.
And I do too. And so for those of us who don't know what the dinosaurs are about, like it's basically like giant puppet costumes, dinosaur people. So this guy literally, Mitchell Young Evans, literally played Fran and dressed up as a dinosaur for a living. This number one subject, Thierry Le, he was.
Okay, wait, hold on. We have a question just really quick.
Yes.
So I think somebody's asking, how many vibrations are there?
Great question.
I think 360, right?
Yes. So we're modeling it with 360 now, just because the chart wheel is 360. But vibrations are truly infinite. They really are. So, but we've only have definitions for vibrations through 43 now. So it's like we can't really interpret above 360 yet. And we don't even know what 360 would indicate, like God particle or something. It's just so like way out there. So yes, so the answer to your question is they're infinite, but we stick to 360 and we have defined them up until 43.
Okay.
Okay, so Thierry Le is a comedian, but particularly he is an impressionist. That was his whole thing. He caricatured people. And so here's his natal chart. And here's his 13th harmonic quincunx patterns. So with him, what is all this stuff, and if you decide to study VA or whatever, it's so literal that it's mind-blowing and mind-boggling. Why? Because Moon, Mercury, Uranus, and this comes up in the research too, is always, every comedian has Moon, Mercury, Uranus.
Sure, so, funny. That's funny.
It's funny. It's funny because, Moon, Mercury is knowledge of psychology and the inner workings of the mind. Moon Uranus is just, in the moment, in the emotional moment. And then Mercury Uranus is just putting concepts together fast. That's exactly what you need to be a humorist, to make people laugh and give jokes. So literally, he is an impersonating humorist. Can I get more specific than that? And his main subject was Davida, who is this fabulous Egyptian queen. She's an Italian Egyptian queen and a French pop star. So she's like loved in France and whatever. She grew up in Cairo. And so he depicts her a lot. I'm not sure we have time for this, but what we're looking at is him doing an impression of Davida.
C'est la même, hein? C'est la même musique, à peu de choses près. Non, non, Dalida, depuis le 10 mai, voit la vie en rose, comme vous le savez, et elle est venue ce soir aussi. Dalida.
Oh. Look, you can see him just change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just changes. I know. So I don't think we're going to have time to do all of them, but can we jump to the people's charts we have?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so sorry, you guys. I thought we had 2 hours. So
we could be here for 2 hours. Please, these people will stay right in here, but that ain't it.
Okay, cool. Now I'm down. Let's go with the flow. So, yep, I'm ready to do some charts for people, for y'all. So let's go.
This is so funny. People are asking these questions, and I remember sitting with David Cochran, and I was like unthinking my thinking while he was talking. I was like, okay, wait, I got to go back over everything I know and like unthink that for a minute. And to take out so much of the traditional practice, I was like, okay, it's sinking in. Like a little bit is sinking in a little bit at a time. It was really kind of a neat process.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm glad that it's translating like that. So I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Who do we have here? What's the vibe going on over here? All right, all you.
Okay, so I have a few charts. I don't know if the people are here though.
That's okay. They may or not be. They usually watch the replay back, but I tell you, I chose charts, you guys, from people who put their birth data in from videos the other day and that have been emailed to me. So we'll just take a look from there. Do you have the data already?
I don't. Can you tell me the data?
Yes. Let me go right back over here and get it. Okay. So the first one, what do we got? Where'd it go? Okay, so the first we've got is 8/26/88.
Yep.
12:10 p.m. in Houston, Texas.
All righty then.
Let's see what we got.
All right, H-Town, let's get it live. All right. Okay, so we're
Yours is just always trying to save something. I'm not gonna lie.
I know I'm typically like OCD about that, but so okay, so this person does not have. Oh, there is a Quincunx here. Okay. So what's really interesting, and we didn't get to this, but let's talk about it now. So as the Quincunx goes really funky in the 5, 7, 8, and 9, or no, excuse me. It gets funky in the 7, 8, 9, and 13, but in the 11 and 5, the Quincunx actually works extremely well. And it's because the 11 and 5 are already moving just by their natures. The 11 is extremely restless, so it's constantly going to the future. It cannot stop. It's always, so it evolves naturally. And the 5 is moving in that it's just this this organic creative learning process. It's just like, so it's not stationary like the other energy rooms of 7, 8, 9, and 13. So this person with a Mercury Pluto Quincunx in the 11, again, so Mercury Pluto, it's all about truth. In the 11, the Quincunx is the Quincunx critiques social norms. That's what it does. It critiques modern social norms. So this person is extremely valuable and interested in pulling out the truth behind everything that our society is structured behind. So it typically, unlike the 11, which it doesn't necessarily have any interest in the history, the Quincunx subjects in the 11 are like scholarly in their knowledge of how things, have developed up into a point and how things are really going down. So for you, Houston, you're definitely going to just have this like extreme prowess for ferreting out and finding the truth of the times now and holding it to account and having conversations about it. All right, next person.
Yeah, okay, we're ready. We've got December 20th, 1978, and 1735 is the time. And Santos, Sao Paulo, Brazil, I believe.
Okay, we'll just punch in Sao Paulo. Huh.
Try, I don't know, it says Santos, SP, Brazil. So is Santos, Brazil just available?
Let's see. Yep.
Oh,
okay.
Hey.
There we go. Okay, cool. This is so fun, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is a trip. Love it.
It is a trip. All right, so 5. Okay, so this is, we can't read that Quincunx. All right, so 7. Okay, so this person has a lot of Quincunx action going on here. It particularly in the 7 and the 8, it looks like for now. So 7th harmonic, we have a Venus, Uranus, and then Sun, Venus. So this is actually really fascinating because I think that this is really about writing, communicating, engaging, and so for this person, and also, okay, 2 things. So this Quincunx over here is just about engaging in the community, and just being open. So this is really about having to flip the script on how to communicate eloquently. So this could probably have a lot to do with languaging of any kinds. And this is, since we're in the 7, this is going to be some type of serious languaging. Like it could be, a software situation, like everything's a language. Programming is a language. Literary stuff is a language. So this person from Santos, like, I think that, I would imagine that this has a lot to do with literally having to, perhaps speak in another tongue more than the native tongue that you were brought up with, and being forced to develop totally different communication skills in which you are eloquently expressing something. So that's that.
Oh my gosh. And so this person is here and they said, I am a foreigner in Britain. That's beautiful.
And so you have to speak English more. Yeah.
Isn't it awesome when you get the confirmation? It's like, hey, this is magical. Okay, you want to do one more?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, all right. Oh, yay. Okay, so this one, person number 3 is May 25th, 1986, 1:12 p.m. in Fairfield, California, Fair.
Okay. Right. Okay, so we got a yacht in the needle. It's just so interesting. Okay, let's do the harmonics. 8, 5, 7, 9.
Our other person said that you were spot on, and thank you.
Oh, thank you. Good. I'm glad this stuff works, right? Like that confirmation. Okay, so let's look at this. This is so exciting. Okay, so it doesn't look like I am not finding. Okay, so we do have a quincunx in the 9. Okay, interesting. And we also have a quincunx in the 13. Okay, let's talk about the 13 quincunx really quickly first, because the 13 quincunx, so it's Sun Saturn, right? And so you don't have to know VA to know that there is like a serious level to Saturn. And, we know that the sun is, the person in the world, how the person presents him or herself, right? So this quincunx is really interesting because, automatically we know that I'm just going to call you Cali because you were born in California. So we already know that Cali is forced by the quincunx to put on multiple personalities in the world. But the thing that's so different from Thierry is that these are really serious roles. They're serious occupations. They have very large implications for, even posterity. It ain't no joke, right? So it's not like this is actually, and just looking at the other stuff in the 13th harmonic specifically, there's a lot of dreaming and reverie here. There's a lot, of kind of art or whatever. But this Sun Saturn thing is like, no, you better, rise above and play all of these serious characters in your life. You have to be serious about this. So that's that thing going on. So I would expect, just having several different faces. And I'm not doing a full natal analysis, obviously, but if there's other indications in this chart of, more reverie, more flowing, which is what these things are talking about here, these patterns over here, then I would think that this would be a very difficult quincunx pattern to deal with, because you got to be, a serious multiplayer out here. That's not easy. So the second one was in the 9th harmonic, which is radical relating. And it's a Mars Neptune. So Mars Neptune is really interesting here, because Mars Neptune in general, it likes to take actions on broad visions. It is a visionary, and it basically takes actions from ideas or concepts that, are maybe born in the imagination, but they definitely aren't here yet. You got to they're way coming down the pipeline. So in terms of radical relating with this could go several ways. I think that, this could come out as being bred to follow false missions in a way, or false visions of, what one thinks is correct in terms of how to relate socially, to take things to other levels, to make things, it's not necessarily like bigger or better, but it's like, okay, go after it, go do that thing that, is impossible, like kind of like the Wordle Twins. But, it's not like, it's like, okay, but how it gets funky in the 9, because it's like, okay, but how do I actually express these far off visions into the community? Like, how do I actually relate to people, from these visions and stuff like that? It's really kind of like it's like, because especially with this Venus, Neptune, Pluto thing going on, where it's just this feeling of wanting to connect. It just wants to connect compulsively. It wants to connect so bad. It just wants to have a deep bond, right? But then we have this quincunx going on, and it's like, can I really share? Can I really act on these visions with people? I really want this bond, but can I really, make this happen with this person? Can I really even express this? So yeah, so that's how I would read that.
Yeah. Oh, I just felt it. Like I felt my whole body resonate with this chart when you were like that desire to genuinely connect, right? Like that is so real. Just even looking at it from a traditional astrology perspective, it's like there's a desire for connection, but the vision is so big.
Yes.
The vision is so big. And it's the question of, oh, but what else? Right? Like, well, how does that happen? How do we do that? But why? Like, it's that, like, how do I deeply connect when I've got this big vision of traveling and question that? You get it. You get it. So Sharon said, I think it's related to her urban farming path, and she wanted to affect change in ideals through the food system.
You know what? I love that because, you know, Venus, this is a little tiny thing here, but it is Venus Mars is connected into this quincunx, and Venus Mars is typically related to food, literally. Food, flowers, herbs, soil. So that's a trip.
That is beautiful. Oh man. Well, this has been like crazy fun. This has been crazy fun, man.
Good. Trust me, that's why I can barely talk, because I'm like squealing inside and I've had crazy fun too. So thank you so much. I'm sorry we couldn't get through all of this, but you know, email me, holler at me, and I can do your mini quincunx or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys want to know more about the vibrations that we didn't cover, we can definitely have some more Clarissa over here. We can bring her right on back, have an afternoon together. I'll probably bring actual food because I'm like that. And we'll go through charts. People look like they really enjoy this and they love your laugh.
Oh, thank you.
I love it too. I was like, her laugh makes me laugh. That makes me want to laugh more with her.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's not just too dang loud. So thank you. And I'd love to come back anytime, and I'll bring my carrots. I was about to bring some carrots, but I was like, no, girl, don't snack this time. So maybe next eat and greet.
Next eat and greet, we'll definitely have you back. We'll both have food. We'll go through the rest of it, the vibrations if you guys are interested. Or even as this video is over, if you guys have questions or you have thoughts about things you want to know about VA that Clarissa can walk us through, put them in the comment section down below, and we'll definitely bring back another topic to the table. So I love you guys a ton. Clarissa, thank you again for coming over. Check out the autumn equinox gifts. They are up. Remember, they're first come, first serve. So they are out now and they book until December. So you can check them out, grab those if you want. We've got more eat and greet action coming up. The eat and greets from Monday and Tuesday of this week are already out. If you want to listen to Clarissa's interview, you can also find it on the podcast. And then tomorrow, Neuro Rochelle will be here and we're going to talk about the moons coming up for September. So lots going on, you guys. I love you and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.